Jason, imagine for a second that you were an NFL ref.
Oh, that's pressure.
The hours are long.
Very.
Both fans are cheering against you. Both the fans of both teams are kind of cheering against you.
Oh, they would hate me.
You probably never get a standing ovation.
Never.
You probably never get thank yous.
No.
But somebody has to do it.
True.
Well, on today's show, we have a great guest on the show. His name is John Hussey. He's an NFL referee with an incredible amount of experience. This guy has actually reffed in 3 NFL championship games, 5 wild card games, 3 divisional games, and a Pro Bowl. And he was actually an alternate referee in the 2020 Super Bowl. He's kind of a big deal, and he's going to share with us his unorthodox path to a career that he loves.
Yeah.
And I think the takeaway for all the listeners on today's show is that you can do what you love. This guy loves football, and he recognized he wasn't good enough to play on the field as a player,
right,
but he can still be in the conversation as a referee. It's
Absolutely.
an exciting story. It's an interview with a great guest by the name of John Hussey, NFL referee John Hussey. All this and more on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download.
Get ready to enter the Thrive Time Show.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top, teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of 5, that's why I'm a dive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the CNC up on your radio, and now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get
Yes, yes,
Oh, little
yes,
cowbell.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
This show requires some cowbell. See, typically on the show, we have high character men.
High character.
We have men who have high values, high
Who
integrity.
achieved something, too.
Who have
typically.
achieved something. We have men that don't hate people on the show. Typically, I mean, Jason, you've seen this. We've been very consistent. We try to book high integrity people.
Yes.
People that have a soul.
Yeah. High testosterone, too.
We have certain.
Whoa.
Josh Wilson with Living Water Irrigation.
Yes, sir.
Typically, we have a checklist we run through before we book guests. And see, you've seen the checklist. It's a big
yeah.
checklist.
It's intense.
Extensive.
Here are the requirements. Step 1, to be on the show, you have to have a soul. Step 2, we would like for you to be able to see what's going on. We don't discriminate against blind guests. We just want guests that can see what's going on. We want to have guests that don't hate fans.
Okay.
We want to have people that don't want to incite riots over what happens on an NFL field.
True.
We don't
Sure.
want. We don't. But we threw all that out.
All of it.
We said, forget it. We're lowering the standards. We're going to have an NFL referee on today's show.
An actual NFL referee. That's-
John Hussey, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show, sir. How are you?
I'm great, gentlemen. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you setting aside the standards to let me come on your show.
Now, brother, I got to ask you this. Did you ever see John Goodman's routine on Saturday Night Live where he played the part of referee Pittman? Did you ever watch that?
No, I will have to Google that.
Oh, it's so good. The basis of my harassment intro was that. I shamelessly stole it. But if you watch Saturday Night Live, Rob Schneider puts his hand up, and there's a press conference. And the premise is that the players are not interviewed after games. Only the referees are. And so Rob Schneider puts his hand up, and he says, excuse me, Referee Pittman, I just want to know, being that you are legally blind, how did you navigate to the game? And then he's like, that's a great question. I just feel around. Thank you. And they're all passive-aggressive questions. So I just want to ask you, how often do people boo you?
Well, it's funny. People actually, a lot, but people actually think and believe that we show up on Sunday to absolutely ruin their day. That's why we exist.
Oh, now I understand that you've actually reffed. I mean, in 3 championship games, 5 wild card games, 3 division games, and I believe a Pro Bowl. I mean, you're obviously doing well. And then I believe are you supposed to be doing are you an alternate for this year's Super Bowl? Is that correct? Or tell me about that.
So I was an alternate in last year's Super Bowl, San Francisco, Kansas City, and then I actually worked as a line judge in Super Bowl 45, which was Green Bay versus Pittsburgh, where Green Bay won, and that was the Super Bowl at Dallas at Cowboy Stadium, their first Super Bowl there.
Why did you decide to be a referee? I mean, do you hate yourself?
My uncle was a high school ref, and when I was I was in college. I thought I was a pretty good baseball player. Come to find out, I wasn't as good as I thought. I was a big fish in a small pond, and when I got into this larger pond, I realized that my athletic ability wasn't at the level that it needed to be. So I really actually sucked. But and I needed to find something to do. And so he said, "Why don't you come out on Fridays and start officiating high school football?" And I did. I had done a little bit of park and rec stuff, so it wasn't completely foreign to me. But, you get out on Friday nights and there's 200, 300, 400 people, maybe a couple thousand, depending on the size of the high school. And it's pretty exhilarating. You get adrenaline, you get to run around, and it's just something I took to. I enjoyed it.
John, what was your path to the NFL? I mean, what kind of hoops do you have to jump through to become an NFL ref?
Certainly. So one thing about Southern California that's great, where I started, is there's a lot of football. There's a lot of community college football. There's small college football, and then there's obviously, then the Pac-12, which was the Pac-10 at the time. You have to matriculate to the certain levels, and one of the things I tell young officials today, and the speed to get to the NFL, the length of time is a lot shorter. We're putting officials into the NFL with 7, 8, 9 years of experience overall. When I first came in, you needed to have about 20 to 30 years experience before you were considered in the NFL. I was on a fast track. I was about 15 years of overall experience. And you just have to get through each level. You have to establish yourself as being proficient and qualified to work there. And then you also have to have people that are around you that feel like you need to work, because they'll check on you. They'll check your references. They'll ask other officials if you can work. In the NFL, we spend a lot of time scouting. We have people out there looking for that next prospect, if you will. And you think about the NFL and players, we do the same thing in officiating. We have people out there, former officials, that are looking for the next candidate.
So when you work your way up to the NFL, eventually you find yourself on the field. I remember, Z, my wife bought me tickets to go see Brett Favre's last season on the Vikings. He's playing versus the Cardinals. That's the game where he set the record for the most passing yards in a game. And my single goal at that game was to start a chant to fire Childress. That was my plan. And I actually did it. I was like, I'm going to start this thing. I got the Metrodome rocking. Yeah. Because this was the year where Brett Favre clearly came there to do just whatever he wants. And Childress was trying to execute a plan. Yeah. And the only reason I wanted to just to have Favre be Favre. I wanted Favre to be the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator. I wanted Favre to do
the center.
I wanted him to hike himself. And Favre pretty much did that. So versus the Cardinals, he threw for like 500 some odd yards. He set a record for his career.
Yeah.
He's just slinging it everywhere. You probably remember that season, John. He's just throwing the ball everywhere into coverage. And Childress is trying to say stuff like, "Don't throw into triple coverage. Follow the playbook." And I'm like, that's not what I want here. I want Favre being Favre.
Unleashed. Favre
He's
unleashed.
been toying. Anyway, the point is, I had never been that close to the field. I was like on the 47-yard line, and I'm like on row 8 or 7. And I remember Favre, they're chasing Favre. They're trying to sack Favre. And I remember I can't repeat a couple of the words he said, but Favre was essentially going, "Get off me. Come on. I'm almost out of bounds." And he was yelling like, "Come on, man." And I didn't realize that he would talk a lot on the field. Can you speak about that? Did you ever see Brett Favre or other players? Is there a lot of talking on the field? Are you allowed to speak about that?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of engagement. And Brett, I have a couple of stories about him, but I remember my first year, my rookie year, I had a call right at the end of a half where it actually created a 10-second run. This is my rookie year, right? I'm still trying. I'm in hot water fast, trying to figure all this out, because the game's so much faster at the NFL from whatever level you're coming from, especially coming from college. So I make this call. We're going to do a 10-second runoff, and Brett's just yelling at me that he was on the line or whatever was his position, right, that to support that the call wasn't justified. And I'm thinking, okay, this is Brett Favre. He has to be right. And what I learned quickly is they'll say whatever they have to say to get out of the situation. And I almost took the bait. I really almost picked up my flag and told Ed Hockley, who was the referee at the time, just pick this up. I'm wrong. Luckily, I stuck with it, and I turned out to be right. But he had me so close to because I believed him.
Now, speaking of Ed, Is it true he takes steroids every day? Isn't
Ed
he
is
the real
hardest
beef?
working man.
Isn't he the real
Ed
beefy
is the
one?
hardest working man. Honestly, I have never met anybody who works harder than Ed at his craft. And I mean that with all sincerity. I remember we were in a game somewhere. I'm standing in the end zone. He's standing in the back of the end zone. I'm on the pylon waiting for the kickoff. He's just dripping sweat. And I'm looking at him, and this is, he's at the end of his career at this point. We're on a crew together, and I'm like, he doesn't have to need to work this hard. Like he's already built a career. He's built a reputation. He's a solid official, and yet he still was working at a level that when he first started. And Ed's one of my mentors. I mean, I owe a lot of what I do today. I try to not talk as much on the microphone as Ed does. I don't get paid by the word like he used to as a lawyer. So, I've seen him get himself a little bit over his ski tips and his announcements sometimes. It's really hard to do. How much, where do you draw the line? Do you say too much? You want to explain it well? It gets a little bit, just like your job probably, right? So you start following a train of thought. Next thing you know, you're like, okay, how did I end up here?
Now I want to, and by the way, I ask that question every day. Z, how did we end up here? How did we allow ourselves to interview a referee? We want people with a soul on every show. We've talked about this. Now I have two more questions about on-field stuff. Then I want to get into what you're working on now, and the guys have questions here too. Tim Tebow. I watched Tim Tebow mic'd. I want this to happen. I'm praying it into existence. I need this to happen. I want every game to be mic'd. I want the NFL to team up with HBO or something. So, you could pay $40 for the game and watch every game mic'd. I would love that. But I watched Tim Tebow the year he was on the Broncos, where he was doing he was like touchdown Jesus. It was amazing. Anyway, Tim gets hit hard, and he gets up and he says, "Good hit," to a guy who just destroys him. And I keep seeing him do this on mic'd. He was a cordial man. I've watched on NFL mic'd Ray Lewis and Brett Favre get into it, where they each it was Tom Brady and Ray Lewis, and they're trying to out-call each other. Tom Brady calls something on the offense. He calls an audible. So Ray calls some audible. And they go back and forth with the chess match. Who is the most cordial player on the field where you go, that is a kind man? Who's the guy on the field where you say, that is the most kind man? And who's the guy who's like out of control smart, where he's just so smart it blows your mind?
Yeah, right away, my mind goes to Larry Fitzgerald on the Cardinals.
Yeah.
He is probably the classiest, what I would consider a superstar in our league, right? Top shelf person and football player. He's just an amazing human being, what he represents and how he carries himself on the football field, especially when he engages with us.
Unbelievable. So Larry, you say Larry's a kind guy, and I know Larry's story. He started off as a ball boy for the Minnesota Vikings, and he was mentored by Chris Carter. He's a strong Christian. He's a great guy in his community. Now, who's the most strategic guy? I mean, was it Ray Lewis? Is it Tom Brady? Is it Belichick? Is it who is out there? Is it Drew Brees? Who's the most strategic? Where you go, that guy is a wild wizard of football.
Yeah, I think, you have to go to the Patriots, right? The collective Belichick and Tom Brady team, the pairing there. They're very Coach Belichick, I think he lays awake at night just trying to craft scenarios or strategies, and all legal and all within the rules, but he knows those rules as well, if not better than anybody. I think when you look holistically at the league and you start looking for a grouping of men or coaches, if you will, I think the special teams coaches in this league they're the wildest set of people you'll ever meet. They look for and dream about things to happen that, they push the envelope of creativity week in and week out.
Bill does that move. Bill, I've seen Bill ask Tom Brady to punt the ball on third down. He did a move a couple years back versus the Ravens where he kept lining up receivers. And he would line up, and he would throw the ball to what appeared to be a lineman. Could you explain how that move worked? Do you remember that game versus the Ravens where he kept throwing the ball? Bill Belichick kept having Tom Brady throw the ball to a guy who appeared to be an ineligible receiver.
Right. So in our league, we have reporting requirements. So if you're wearing an ineligible number, in order to be an eligible receiver, you need to report to the referee. And there has been years where he's found ways to MacGyver that to his benefit, and then we fixed the rule the next year. And so I think there was a playoff game a few years back where he set out the ineligible receiver who reported as ineligible. He did everything right. In fact, if I remember correctly, Bill Vinovich was the referee. He signaled properly. I mean, they did everything by the book and was legal, but it was very creative. And so the next year, then they changed the rule and said that the 5 ineligible linemen have to be in the core of the formation. They can't spread them out like they did the year before. So, kudos to Bill. He's always trying to figure out a way to use the rules to his advantage to win football games.
I love
and
that.
In the National Football League, there's only one real measure of success, and that's the W.
Right.
I absolutely love this. Okay, now we're going to open it up for the free-for-all. We'll go with Josh. I'll get Z going with Z first, then Josh. Here we go.
John, what was the worst call you ever made? I mean, the one you go.
I
mean, you got to have one that you know is the worst call you made.
Yeah, I called a face mask in the Super Bowl that wasn't there.
Oh,
Super Bowl 45. Yeah.
Hey, I have. I'm sorry. I wanted to play a sound. I'm so sorry. I have to play a sound effect that you know well. I have to cut you off and be rude because that's what fans do.
That's what they do.
They cut them off. They're rude. They're mean. I'm sorry. Back to you. I just wanted to recreate that feeling of the field for a second. Now back to you. I'm sorry. I just had to pretend to be an angry fan for a moment.
No, you're good. So the pandemic started and we're all quarantined. And so naturally watched the NFL Network, and my Super Bowl must have been on 17 times. Phone people are saying, "Hey, I see your Super Bowl," and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't want to watch that game."
So who'd you call it on, and what was the situation? I'm trying to remember. What?
There was a punt play. The punt returner is running with the ball, gets driven out of bounds. I get knocked kind of sideways and spun around, which should have told me right then and there that I should have picked up my flag, because I didn't have that full perspective of the whole entire play. I think in today's world, we might have stopped and talked about it a little bit more. This was a few years before replays kind of become a little bit more a part of our game. And I just didn't see the whole play. He got raked across the mask, but it wasn't enough of a grab to what you would call as what we would want called today. So it was a bad call in a big game.
Okay, now Josh.
Yes.
It turns out he's a kind man.
He's a very kind man.
I take back what
He's too kind.
I take back what I said about him not having a soul. I bought into the lies, Z, of the fake news. The mainstream media says that referees don't have souls.
Yeah.
It's right there in black and white.
And here I bought into the hype.
I'm not going to ask him the question about if he needs an appointment at Dr. Zellner's. I won't ask him the question.
You're not going to ask him. We're not. Okay, good, Josh, now you can ask him any questions you want. And if you do want to ask the question about if Z would send him a free pair of glasses.
Right.
Because
I already called that out, yeah.
But I think he's a good guy, so I don't think he needs him. I think he's a good guy.
Can you take an endorsement there, John? I mean, are you allowed to take free glasses?
I don't need them. I actually did my eye test with my physical, and I was quite impressed at how my eyesight continues to hold.
John,
on.
I think you might have lost Clay there.
No, real quick.
But
this is genius. This is genius marketing. See, think about this. If you had a sign that says, "We supply glasses to NFL referees."
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that would be a hot ad.
The official NFL referee
And John,
glass supplier.
John, you'd be the first NFL ref on billboards with a big endorsement deal, right? I mean, are there other refs getting big deals? I love this.
I don't see any refs getting endorsements.
I love this deal.
I think,
See?
Put this together.
I love it.
Put this together.
Okay, Josh, what's your question?
Okay, so I got a little two-parter. So number one, I mean, as a fan watching at home, whenever somebody just gets flattened, I mean, just Ray Lewis coming around,
just smashed.
just a guy picks up, gets lofted
Blown
that
up.
ball on the wheel route and just gets laid out.
Laid out.
As referees, do y'all walk up to each other and go, "Oh my goodness"?
Snap.
100%.
Perfect.
I'll go, "Ooh, that had to hurt."
Hey,
And you go run over and help the guy up, and man, are you alive? Are you okay?
how cool is Ray Lewis? How cool was Ray Lewis? How I love me some Ray Lewis. Talk to me about Ray Lewis. Teach me.
Yeah, I think what I took away from him, he's a really good human being, and his demeanor, he's very professional. But the one thing that I noticed with him, and you learn it quickly, is extremely focused. He's not there to when he's playing football, he's not there to make friends. He was there. He was intense, extremely intense and extremely focused. And some of the best players in our league, that's one of the characteristics, is that they're intense. They're there to win that football game.
And then the follow-up on that, John, was have you ever just been flat out trucked?
Have you been trucked?
By just laid out?
Yes. So, yes. In Thanksgiving in Denver, Thursday night game, I got rolled up. It was when I was a line judge. I got rolled up. The player came up and his helmet hit me under the chin.
Oh, no.
This was many, many years ago, kind of pre-concussion era, before we really had this, high level of concern about concussions like we do today. And I actually think I was concussed through the whole game. I got through it because I remember the next day flying home from Denver and the altitude, you could just feel the effects of it. And I can understand why we have this sensitivity to head trauma today and what the precautions and the steps we take to mitigate that. But yeah, it was, luckily it just didn't show up on the bloopers.
With all the, potential injury there, do you get paid as a ref?
Do I get paid?
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, is it a full-time gig? Is it a full-time gig?
I'm an employee of the National Football League, so I work for the National Football League. And I would say when you talk about full-time during the season, it is, you get into this competitive mindset as an official, which I think, some people might find that hard to believe. But we're out there competing as the third team to try to get to the playoffs and hopefully finish. You kind of listed off some of the games that I work postseason. When you start out the season, you aspire to try to work postseason and go as high and as far as you can. So there's a competitive undercurrent that occurs for the 4 months of the season that just kind of keeps you engaged. I want to have a great football season like the teams want to have a great year.
John, is it true there's a rumor going around the NFL that you, in fact, talking about Ray Lewis, that you actually taught him his entrance dance into the stadium? Is that true?
He just wouldn't do it quite the way I wanted him to do it. So.
Nice.
The eight count was
Jason,
off.
Jason, we have time for one final question for you, and then I want John to tell us what he's working on because he's got a great project he's working on.
Well, I'm really glad I got to be here in studio for this today because I have always wanted to ask a legit referee this question, and I just so happened to be talking to an NFL ref. So I'm a huge MMA guy. That's the sport I've been following.
Mixed martial arts.
Which has referees. But I've been to other pro sporting events, right? So if you are in the professional sports, arena, you have to have a referee there. Now, a referee's job is to arguably know the rules of each sport. The player's job is to know the rules and obey their coach. So it's a two-part question. One, what is it like to work in an industry where 99% of the people you are surrounded by are so fundamentally wrong, but you have to listen to them and their chants on a daily basis too?
Oh, the players are wrong, you mean?
No, the stadium.
Oh, the stadium's wrong. The fans
I
just
can't tell you
boo.
how many events I've been to, especially MMA, where you have some guy who is 400 plus pounds who could not carry his butt into that octagon, who has no idea what a guillotine or a around the neck armbar, whatever it is.
Okay, so question one: what's it like knowing that you're right when the whole stadium's wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, the best part is when you're standing out there and there's a call and the stadium just erupts in boos, right? It just gets really, really loud. And you're like, okay, something went wrong, or it's your call. You're like, oh. And then next thing you know, they play it up on the board, on the Jumbotron, and all of a sudden you hear them go, and they just kind of go, and you're like, yeah, I know.
Well, the second part of that, I'll keep it short, is how do you keep yourself from just strangling people in the stadiums? Do you have to meditate a lot, or what is the control on that?
Yeah, the one thing about being a referee and moving from line judge to the middle of the field is the best part about being on the middle of the field is I don't have to hear the sidelines yell as much. They're usually right there in your ear when you're on the sideline. Being on the middle of the field, you can kind of turn that off a little bit. So you really are just dealing with the 22 players that are out there on the field with you. That was one of the great things about being promoted and moving to referee. So, you've learned over time to trust your instincts and your experience. You're not going to be right all the time, but most of the time you are. And like that Brett Favre play that I talked about early in my career, you come to learn that experience goes a long way in the National Football League. And I've seen a lot in going on my 19 years. And so I trust that. I trust my experience. That usually gets you through when you're in a situation where you're not really sure where it's going to end up.
So tell us what this thing is you're working on, this Cuddly organization. What is Cuddly? I know you're the founder and the CEO of it, but a lot of our listeners don't know what it is. What is this organization?
Sure. So Cuddly is a platform that was built. It's a crowdfunding platform that was built specifically to help animal welfare organizations across the world in their fundraising. Their number one challenge when you talk about animal welfare organizations is fundraising. They rely 80% of their funding has to come from outside sources. And a lot of them, and there's 23,000 of them in the United States, for example.
Wow.
And a lot of them are just groups of people that get together that form a 501c3 that want to save animals. But they don't wake up every morning and say, oh, I need to be a better fundraiser. They wake up every morning and want to save animals. So that's where Cuddly plays a role. We come in, we provide a platform for them in order to improve their fundraising so they can do what their actual their passion is, which is to save animals.
Cuddly, that's Cuddly, Cuddly. What's the website there, John?
It's Cuddly.com, Cuddly.com.
I see what you did there.
Wow.
He made the domain the same as the name.
Wow.
Thus, further proof he has mind works. This whole referee, I got this whole referee thing wrong.
I think you're off a
into
little
the
bit.
hype.
I think you're off just a
Okay,
little bit.
now, I want to ask you this final question because Z, you know that I'm a man bear pig.
Yes.
If I wanted to get involved with Cuddly and try to raise money for my man bear pigness, or to help other man bear pigs, or what kind of animals, what kind of awareness do you have? Do you allow people to help defend and save the man bear pigs, or what? Tell us what kind of animals that you're down with helping here with this whole animal welfare thing.
Yeah, for sure. So we help any organization as long as you're an animal welfare nonprofit. So if you're a 501c3, and we verify for part of the value proposition of Cuddly is for our donors is we make sure we verify that these organizations are legit, that the actual animals are in their care. And so donors know that they're giving and that the impact of their donation is going to that animal. But we're agnostic to animals on our platform as long as the organization is verified. We'll find. We just raised money for a monk seal in Hawaii, a monk seal pup that was separated from their mom, and it needed some funds for them to care for it, and then also some equipment. The one great thing about Cuddly is we bring together the ability for a donor to give monetarily, which is very helpful, but we also curate these registries like a baby registry or a wedding registry, but for the animals in their care. So now you can buy a bed, a leash, some food, some ointments, some topical, some bandages, and you can actually help this animal by buying these products. Most of the cases, unfortunately, on Cuddly are abused and neglected animals. And it's sort of incongruous. There's a little bit of incongruity in the brand, right? Cuddly, and then you go and you look at these cases and you're saying, but this is what happens in real life. And so what we do is we harness our marketing engine and we help our organizations raise money to save these animals. And then we really spend amount of time trying to tell the success story. It's so beautiful to see an animal that comes in as a case. It's been abused. It's been treated and taken care of by a foster. Our donors buy a bed and leash and other things for this animal. And then you get to see the pictures of the animal in a forever home. I know I don't have a soul, and I got on the
you
show,
do.
Without one.
I was misled. It turns out I've been lied to. I bought into the lie. I'm sorry.
Hoodwink.
I'm sorry, John.
Fake news.
Bamboozled.
Fake news.
I only watch Chris Cuomo.
It's amazing to see the work that we do. I can't get over that I'm involved in this company and that I got into this and that the work that our team is doing for these organizations is so amazing. It blows my mind sometimes to think, gosh, we had a hand in that.
That's
You know what I want to do? I want to ask you this. This is my final controversial question. Then we have to let you go because you got big things to do here. Some people taxidermy like a buffalo, or what kind of animals do people taxidermy?
You have a squirrel in your studio.
Stop talking about it. See, what are animals that people
Deer, elk.
Elk?
I mean,
How come people as a general rule, it's frowned upon to have a taxidermied head of a dog? As the CEO of Cuddly, why is that? I mean, you don't see a lot of people doing attack. You see fish. You see buffalo. You see what else? There are animals. Elk. You see
deer. Deer's probably the number
John,
one
why don't you
taxidermied
see a lot
animal, I
of
would think.
cat heads up there taxidermied or dog heads? Why?
Why don't you see them?
Why don't you? Answer the questions. Don't play the game with me.
Well, your question's pretty out there.
Yeah.
But
Whatever.
I'll try to take a stab at it to kind of normalize your thought process, if I may.
Don't.
You'll never be able to normalize
No,
I guarantee.
I would say that cats and dogs are what we consider companion animals. So are you going to take your companion and stuff it and put it on a wall?
I don't know. I have never taxidermied. Now, somebody did give me a taxidermied squirrel. I've never taxidermied, and I just was wondering if there's like a rule book, like the NFL rule book. There's a rule of like thou shalt not taxidermy these things. I just didn't know. You're on the cutting edge technology here for helping animals and animal welfare, and I thought you might know the answer to that.
That's fair.
Well, I would say this, and I'll leave you with this, and
Okay.
then I'll drop the mic on you.
Here we go.
Becoming the CEO of Cuddly 5.5 years ago, I didn't know what I didn't know about animal welfare. I didn't come to this for that purpose. I came to it as a business investment. What I've learned in my 5.5 years as CEO is that having animals in your life and the way that I have my dog in my life, our rescue dog Benji in my life, it's absolutely made me a better human being. I am better today for the opportunity to be the CEO of Cuddly, and I'm very thankful for that opportunity.
John, I appreciate you being on our
That's
show.
awesome.
I really do. You're a lot of fun. We'd love to have you on again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you.
Hey,
Thanks,
take
John.
care.
Cheers.
And
Bye,
John, John, we're off air. What day do you want this show coming out?
Whatever is good for you.
I'm going to say,
if I have a,
what day are you
that's
thinking?
fine. What were you thinking?
8/16.
Okay, that works for me. Thank
Okay,
you.
8/16. You take care, man. Great interview. You did a great job.
Yeah, if you guys need anything ever, you know how to get a hold of me. Just reach out.
Gotcha.
Happy to do it.
See you, dude. Bye.
Okay, take care. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom! Jason, you and I happen to have the privilege of working with a very talented young man by the name of Young Knowledge.
That's right.
That's his rap name.
Yes.
His real name is Charles. He's a great guy.
He's an amazing guy.
He works with us at Elephant in the Room Men's Grooming Lounge.
One of the best managers we've ever seen.
Just a great guy, great energy. And we're trying to give him a platform to escape from the norm.
That's right.
To get the truth beyond this booth, get it in the air everywhere. And he's been doing, per my request, by the way, he does original music too, but he's doing some remixes and some revisions of some songs that you might know.
Oh, yeah.
So this is his take on the Tupac song, Changes. And I think if you listen to the words that he speaks, I think you're going to hear the heart of the man, and I think you're going to become a fan. This is Young Knowledge and his remix of the song Changes by Tupac Shakur.
Things will never be the same, never be the same, never be the same, no. The way it is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let go. It's feeling like my resurrection. I was never dead, I was resting. I've been waiting on my time to be selected. I'm sorry you felt neglected. Still hold it down for my section 111. We repping it with perfection. I promise I got a message straight from the great one. Lot of fake people telling lies, but I ain't one. They ain't gon' give you no shot, you gotta take one. No rap scene in my city till we made one. I ain't got no friends no more, only got brothers left. I can never let you put your knee up on my brother's neck. They wanna kill our whole race till ain't no brothers left. That's why we gotta push forward and take another step. I'd rather do life in prison with 100 sets. Hit the yard looking hard, do a couple hundred reps. But I can't let my brothers die, just record it. Man, ain't too many real ones left, I can't afford it. Jordan, lately I've been feeling like LeBron. Yeah, I said it out before, but I feel like it's my time. Now you wanna come back thinking it's all fly? I ain't seen you in a minute like a supersized fry. Never let a sucker break a spirit, they ain't like us. Brody getting busy, no hezzy, homie, you might bust. Don't tell me what you would've did, don't hype us. I can never hang around a person that I might trust. Life's tough, we persevere through it all. Same people smiling at you, gon' cheer when you fall. It's a shame when they hate on greatness and praise fakeness. Big blessings on the way, I feel it, I can't shake. Yeah, I pledge allegiance to my region, cause I know we need it. Don't act facetious, battles bleeding while we tryna treat it. They say that slavery is over, but it never ceases. So come in peace and act decent, or you leave in pieces. I ain't tryna start no problems, I just wanna live. The young homies living life the way I always did. Stack of chips, even if you gotta make a trip. I wanna tell them quick, but then I be a hypocrite. Some people think I moved to Oklahoma randomly. I always felt Jehovah Jireh had his hand on me. They say they always be around, but they abandon me. And life's a gamble, so you gotta bet a band on me. My soul hurts when I think about my old friends. All the things that we done and we coulda did. Like family, man, I fed them like my own kids. We don't need to talk now, that's the way it is.
You know the sad thing about people is
That's just the way
they love talking about you whether you do good or you do bad. So you might as well give them something good to hate on, you feel me? Don't follow your dreams, chase them. Don't meet me there, beat me there. Give someone around you the motivation they need to make it, because they see you grinding, and they see you shining, and they see you trying to make it to the top. You see, the thing about me is you may have more skill than I have. You may have a better background than I do. But one thing's for sure and two things for certain, I will not let you outwork me, and that is a promise I intend to keep for the rest of my life.
Never, never, oh never. Some things will never change. No, no, never, never, oh never. Some things will never change. Yeah. That's just the way it is. No, no, no. Oh, never. Oh, never. Some things will never change.